Have you ever caught yourself wondering if you made the right choice by cutting ties with someone? That question echoes inside, especially when they seem to be handling the distance so well. But hold on. That's a common move in the narcissistic cycle, pretending to be fine even when everything inside is falling apart. That's not healing. That's manipulation dressed as indifference. And that's exactly where the danger is. The narcissist doesn't accept the end. He may accept losing a battle, but never the war. And every move he makes, even the ones that seem harmless, are calculated attempts to return. But that return isn't about starting over. It's about regaining the control he believes he lost. Do you see now? It was never about love, never about care or real connection. It was always about power. And the more you stand firm, the more he twists. Because your silence screams in his head. It's a vacuum he doesn't know how to fill. It's the absence of the validation that once fed his ego, and that breeds desperation, but he won't show it. Not yet. First, he tries to sneak back in quietly, and if that doesn't work, he changes his strategy. The narcissist is a master of illusion. He'll look like he moved on, like he's happy, like he's healed. He might even show up with someone new, and way too fast. But that new love is nothing but a disguise. A show, carefully staged to get to you, to make you doubt your decision. And if you fall for that trap, you're right back in the cycle, at the exact place you fought so hard to escape. Let's be real. He doesn't change. He adapts. And adapting isn't growing. It's just wearing the same pattern in a different outfit. So if he reappears more calm, more mature, more balanced, be careful. That's just the script of the next phase. And the more you understand the script, the less you get fooled by the actors. Some people don't understand the strength it takes to go no contact. They think it's dramatic, cold, or revenge. But it's not. It's survival. It's like closing a door that, if left open, will drain everything you are. It's protecting your emotional health from someone who only knows how to corrode it. And if that feels extreme, it's only because you haven't seen the damage he can do when he still has access to your mind. He'll test your limits. He'll poke at you with indifference, silence, fake calm. He'll use old memories, old messages, moments that once made you smile. Anything to light something back up in you. Because he knows, if he hits the right wound, you'll hesitate. And that hesitation? That's where the danger is. That's when the cycle starts again. And worse, it comes back stronger and more confusing than before. No one walks away from a narcissistic cycle untouched. The person you were before doesn't come back the same. They return more guarded, more cautious, more closed off. And yes, that hurts. But that pain is proof you survived something most people don't even realize they're trapped in. And if you can see that now, you've already taken a step he never will. The step into awareness. And if you feel nostalgic, don't blame yourself. That's normal. But don't confuse nostalgia with a desire to go back. Nostalgia is just memory. Going back is reliving the same trauma and suffering all over again. And there's nothing more dangerous than walking willingly into a pain you already had the courage to leave behind. That's not love. That's addiction. And you don't deserve to stay trapped in the narcissist's cycle. Every time you think about giving in, remember the version of yourself you had to become just to survive him. Remember how small, how guilty, how drained you felt. Remember how no matter what you did, it was never enough. Because the problem was never you. It was always him, and the twisted way he sees the world. If you've made it this far, it's because you've already seen the pattern. You've already felt the sting of being manipulated, lied to, and discarded. So now it's time to use that pain, not for revenge, but for protection, for armor. Because yes, he will come back. He will try again. But the stronger you stand, the less power he'll have. The cycle only breaks when the person inside it decides they won't spin anymore. And if you're reading this right now, maybe this is your moment. Not because someone told you, but because you're tired, because you've seen, because you finally understand. And now, nothing will make you close your eyes again. If you've been through something like this, leave a comment below and stay until the end, because I'm going to reveal something powerful. There's something deeply unsettling about how a narcissist handles being ignored. It's not just the silence that disturbs him, it's what that silence represents, a crack in his illusion of control. When you go no contact, you're not just stepping away, you're tearing down the image he built of himself in your eyes. And that's something his ego cannot process without a fight. He begins to spin stories in his head. You're doing this to hurt him. You're overreacting. You're the one who's broken. Because accepting that he's being cut off for a reason would mean facing a truth he refuses to acknowledge, that his behavior had consequences, real ones, that no amount of charm, promises, or fake vulnerability can undo. The fear kicks in, but he hides it. He buries it under arrogance, under fake smiles, under carefully curated photos and moments designed to provoke you. He wants you to question your decision. He needs you to doubt. Because if you doubt, even for a second, he knows there's a chance you'll open that door again. And that's all he needs. One tiny crack. That's why so many people break no contact. Not because they miss him, but because he creates just enough chaos, confusion, and emotional noise to blur their clarity. He plays on guilt, on nostalgia, on the need for closure. But here's the secret he doesn't want you to realize. There is no closure with someone who never planned on giving you peace. You start remembering the good moments. That one time he held you when you cried. That day he surprised you. That night you laughed like nothing else mattered. But memories lie when they're isolated. They forget the nights you cried alone. The mornings you woke up anxious, the constant second-guessing. And that's what he counts on. That selective memory, that emotional vulnerability. But when you stay grounded, when you resist the pull, something shifts. You regain a piece of yourself he thought was lost. You start seeing the manipulation for what it was, strategic, not emotional, calculated, not impulsive. And that realization hits hard, because it makes everything he did seem colder, more intentional, less human. He notices this shift in you, even if he can't say it out loud. He feels the disconnect, and it terrifies him, not because he loves you, but because he's losing a source of energy. You were a mirror, reflecting back the version of him he wanted to believe existed. Without you, he has to face his own emptiness, and nothing scares him more than that. So what does he do? He escalates. Suddenly, he's the victim. Suddenly, you were abusive. You never appreciated him. You changed. He needs people to see you as the problem, because the idea that people might start seeing through his mask, that's unbearable. He's not fighting for love. He's fighting for image, for reputation. For survival, in the only way he understands it. This is why your silence is louder than any confrontation. It speaks a truth he can't control. It says, I see you. And for someone whose entire identity is built on being admired, misunderstood, or pitied, being seen for who he really is, that's a nightmare. People ask, does no contact even work? The answer is yes, but not in the way you might think. It doesn't fix him. It doesn't suddenly make him regret and become a better person. It reveals him. It pulls back the curtain and shows the reality he tries so hard to hide. And in that space, you gain clarity, strength, perspective. You begin to rebuild, quietly, steadily, piece by piece. And even though some days feel heavy, and some nights feel endless, there's something powerful about knowing you chose peace over chaos, that you chose your sanity over someone else's approval. And that choice, that's where the healing starts. You're not weak for missing him. You're strong for not going back. You're not cold for cutting contact. You're brave for protecting your energy. Because in a world where narcissists thrive on emotional chaos, your calm is resistance. Your silence is your power. And every day you keep that boundary, you take back a little more of yourself. There's a moment, quiet, subtle, when the narcissist starts to realize you're not coming back. At first, he tells himself it's a phase, that you're playing hard to get. That soon you'll crack. But then time passes, and you don't, and that silence. It starts to sting in places he didn't even know could hurt. He won't admit it, of course, not even to himself. So what does he do? He crafts a new narrative, one where he was the one who walked away, where you were unstable, ungrateful, impossible. He tells that story to his friends, to anyone who will listen, even to strangers. Because the story isn't for them, it's for him. It's his way of erasing the truth that you saw through him, and chose yourself instead. But don't think for a second that he's moved on. His new relationships, his sudden peace, his spiritual awakenings, they're all performances, designed not to heal, but to hurt. He wants you to see it. He hopes it burns, because if you feel pain, then he still has power. That's the game. Not love, not growth, just control. You might catch yourself watching from a distance, wondering if he's really changed. That doubt is natural. It's part of your healing. But here's what you need to know. Narcissists don't transform. They recycle. New face, same mask, same patterns, slightly different packaging. And the truth? He'll keep repeating it until someone stops dancing to his music. And that someone is you. You've probably noticed by now, he doesn't apologize. Not sincerely. And if he does, it's loaded with conditions. I'm sorry, but you made me. I wouldn't have if. That's not an apology. That's manipulation. It's a trap dressed in false humility. And if you fall for it, you step right back into his web. Every time you question your decision, remember this. Healthy people don't punish you for having boundaries. They don't crumble when you walk away. They don't chase you with lies and guilt and fake promises. That reaction, that rage, that silent treatment, it's not love, it's dependency. It's fear disguised as affection. He fears your peace more than your anger, because your peace means you don't need him. And narcissists can't stand not being needed. That's why he'll poke, provoke, stir the pot. Anything to break that calm. Because once you're calm, you're clear. And once you're clear, he can't control you anymore. There's power in not responding, in not explaining, in not defending yourself. Because every time you stay silent, you take away his oxygen. You strip him of the drama he feeds on, and eventually he has to look elsewhere, not because he's over you, but because he can't use you anymore. He'll try to come back, don't doubt that. Not because he loves you, but because he lost access. And when he does, he'll come dressed in everything you ever wanted. Softer, kinder, wiser. It's a lie, a tactic, a test. And if you pass it by staying away, you win something he'll never have. True self-respect. Think about how many chances you gave. How many times you bent your own truth just to keep the peace. That's not weakness, that's hope. But hope, when wasted on someone who only takes, becomes a slow kind of self-destruction. And you've felt that, haven't you? That draining feeling, that invisible exhaustion. That's why walking away was the most powerful thing you ever did. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about proving a point. It was about survival, about reclaiming your worth. And now, every day you hold the line, every minute you resist the urge to answer, you're rebuilding the part of you he tried to erase. You don't need closure from someone who caused the wound. You need distance. You need truth. And most of all, you need yourself. Because the version of you that survived this, that's the version that was always there, just waiting for the noise to stop so they could finally be heard. The hardest part isn't walking away. It's staying gone. Especially when he starts doing everything you once begged for. Now he listens. Now he says the right words. Now he acts like the person you always hoped he'd be. But here's the truth that cuts through the fantasy. If he could become that version for someone new, why wasn't he that person for you? That question haunts. But it also reveals. Because it proves it was never about capacity. It was always about control. He knew what you needed. He just chose to withhold it. Not because he couldn't give it, but because giving it meant giving you power. And a narcissist doesn't give power. He drains it. You weren't asking for too much. You were asking the wrong person. And deep down, you knew. You felt it in the way your needs were turned into burdens, your feelings into weapons. But you stayed. Not because you were weak, but because you believed love was supposed to be hard. Real love isn't supposed to feel like emotional warfare. He may not have hit you, but he bruised you. With silence. With mockery. With the way he made you question your own reality. That's the part outsiders don't see. They think he was charming, charismatic, magnetic. But they never saw the nights you collapsed on the floor, asking yourself what you did wrong. Again. You didn't imagine the pain. You didn't invent the chaos. You didn't cause his behavior. That's part of the trap, convincing you that you were the problem. Because if he can make you the villain, he never has to face the mirror. And if you keep playing that role, he never has to grow. But here's what he didn't expect: that you'd wake up. That one day, something would snap, and you'd finally say, enough. Not in rage, not in revenge, but in quiet, steady clarity. That kind of power scares him more than anything. Because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. And once you taste peace, chaos feels like poison. He'll try to remind you of the connection, the inside jokes, the intimate moments. But that's nostalgia, not reality. Nostalgia is selective. It filters the pain, highlights the warmth, paints over the damage. But you lived it, all of it, and deep down, you know. Going back means betraying yourself all over again. You're not running from love. You're running from self-abandonment. Because every time you forgave what shouldn't be forgiven, every time you minimized what hurt, you taught yourself to settle. And now you're unlearning. You're rewiring your nervous system. You're healing the part of you that thought survival was love. He may not chase forever. At some point, he'll retreat. Not because he respects your boundaries, but because he's found someone else to drain. Don't let that shake you. That's not your loss. It's your freedom. He's repeating the same cycle with a different name, and eventually they'll feel what you felt. That's the pattern. That's the proof. What matters is what you choose now. Will you let the past pull you back into the storm? Or will you keep walking forward, even when the path feels lonely? Because the truth is, loneliness fades, but peace grows. Slowly. Steadily. And that peace is built on moments like this. When you choose you, you're not too sensitive. You're not too emotional. You're someone who craved depth in a person who only knew how to skim the surface. Don't apologize for feeling deeply. That's not your weakness. That's your gift. And the right people, they won't weaponize that gift. They'll honor it. The narcissist doesn't need another chance. He had more than enough. What you need now isn't his validation, it's your own. You're not who you were when you met him. You're wiser, sharper, stronger. And even on the days it still hurts, you're healing. And that's everything. There's a specific kind of silence after the storm, the kind that feels foreign. After all the chaos, all the tension, all the emotional noise, things suddenly go quiet. And in that quiet, you almost miss the chaos. Not because it was good, but because it was familiar. And that's how deep the trauma runs. It tricks you into craving what once broke you. That's why healing from a narcissist feels confusing. You're not just walking away from a person. You're walking away from a version of yourself that normalized emotional survival. The version of you that laughed to keep from crying, that explained things 5 different ways hoping he'd understand, that begged for basic decency. And now, here you are, in the aftermath, trying to remember who you were before him. That's not easy, because he didn't just take time or energy. He took parts of your identity. He made you forget your worth, your voice, your peace. But here's what he underestimated: your ability to reclaim every single part. That moment when you finally say, "I didn't deserve that," is a turning point. It might come late, after countless betrayals. But when it arrives, it hits hard. It rewrites the entire story. Because suddenly you're no longer the desperate one clinging to a toxic bond. You're the survivor who got out. And that shift? That's power. He'll feel that shift even if he's not around. He'll sense the disconnection. The detachment, the absence of emotional supply. And that's when the mind games intensify. You might hear from mutual friends. He might post cryptic messages. He might even pretend he's concerned for you. Don't be fooled. Every move is calculated. Remember, a narcissist doesn't reach out because he misses you. He reaches out because he misses control. Your silence is a threat to his narrative. If you don't speak, he can't twist your words. If you don't respond, he can't manipulate your emotions. Your no contact isn't just distance, or it's resistance. And yet, part of you still wonders, what if he really changes? That question lingers even when you know better. That's the hook. That's the last thread. Because hope, when placed in the wrong hands, becomes a weapon. He never needed time to change. He needed accountability. And that's the one thing he avoids at all costs. You gave him more than enough chances. You explained. You forgave. You stayed when everything in you wanted to run. That wasn't weakness. That was love. But love without boundaries isn't love. It's sacrifice. And he didn't honor that sacrifice. He exploited it. Again and again. Let that be the lesson. Not that you should love less, but that you should protect yourself more. Empathy is a gift. But without discernment, it becomes a trap. The right people won't drain you. They won't play games with your heart. They'll meet you in the middle. They'll stay when it's hard. They won't need to be chased. You're not broken. You're healing from being broken. And there's a difference. One is who you are, the other is what happened to you. Don't confuse the two. Don't let his dysfunction define your reflection. The damage wasn't your fault. The healing, though, that's your responsibility now. And healing doesn't always look graceful. Sometimes it's ugly. It's messy. It's crying in the dark and shaking from flashbacks. But even in the worst moments, there's growth. There's strength being built quietly. And one day you'll wake up and realize you didn't just survive him. You outgrew him. You are not the same person who tolerated his chaos. You're stronger now, sharper, more aware. And even though some parts still hurt, you're standing. And that's proof enough. You don't need his closure. You are your own. And from here on out, your story is yours again. You might not notice it at first, but the moment you truly detach and when you stop checking, stop hoping, stop flinching at every notification, something inside starts to breathe again. It's subtle, a quiet sense of space. But in that space, you begin to rebuild the parts of yourself that he tried to erase. That's when he circles back. Always. When you're finally moving on. When you start smiling without effort. When your energy shifts from survival to healing, that's when he feels the loss. Not of love, not of connection, but of control. You becoming whole again is his biggest threat. Because now you're out of reach. He'll pretend it's about closure, that he just wants to talk, to explain, to apologize. But if you let him in, even just a little, you'll feel it. That same undercurrent of manipulation, the pressure, the subtle guilt tripping, the mind games dressed up as honesty. He's not coming back to make peace. He's coming back to reset the game. And if you're not careful, you'll slip. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. Because part of you still remembers the beginning, the charm, the warmth, the illusion. But that's exactly what it was. An illusion. A mask. And behind that mask is someone who never learned to love without control. That's what sets narcissists apart. They don't just want attention. They need it, crave it, depend on it. And when you cut that off, you force them to sit with their own emptiness. But they don't sit for long, they move on fast, not because they've healed, but because they're searching for a new source. It's hard not to take that personally, to see them happy with someone else acting like none of it ever happened. But understand this, it's not happiness, it's performance. He didn't change, he reset the cycle. That new person, they're standing exactly where you once stood, smiling, trusting, not knowing what's coming. And here's the kicker, he wants you to see it. The posts, the stories, the sudden glow-up. It's all part of the plan. Not to move on, but to reel you back in. To make you feel like you lost something irreplaceable. But you didn't lose him. You escaped him. And that distinction? It changes everything. You didn't leave because you stopped loving him. You left because loving him was killing you. Slowly, quietly, in ways no one else could see. The confusion, the self-doubt, the exhaustion of constantly defending your own reality. That's what people don't understand about narcissistic abuse. It's invisible until it's too late. You kept hoping it would get better, that if you were patient or kinder or more understanding, he'd finally see your heart. But he saw it, from the beginning, and he used it. Because someone like him doesn't seek connection, he seeks control, and your love was just a tool for his ego. Now you know better. Now you see the red flags as warnings, not invitations. You feel the shift in energy when someone tries to manipulate you. And that instinct? That's your body remembering what it went through. It's your nervous system learning how to protect you. That's healing in motion. You're not cold for setting boundaries. You're not heartless for going no contact, you're wise. And every time you say no, to chaos, to gaslighting, to emotional blackmail, you're saying yes to peace, to clarity, to yourself. And that kind of self-honoring, that's rare. That's powerful. Let him think what he wants, let him spin his story. Your silence is not weakness. It's strength. It's dignity. It's proof that you've outgrown his reach. And even if the pain still lingers, even if some days feel heavy, just remember, you're not who you were. You're who you're becoming. And that version of you? Untouchable. One day, without even realizing it, you'll stop counting how long it's been since he last reached out. You'll stop checking his profile. Stop wondering who he's with, what he's doing, or whether he ever really cared. Not because you forgot, but because you finally remembered yourself. The version of you before him. And more importantly, the version of you after him. That's when it clicks. This wasn't just a breakup. It was an awakening. A brutal, soul-cracking awakening that forced you to meet parts of yourself you didn't even know were buried under all the emotional wreckage. And those parts? They're not weak. They're warriors. They kept you standing when everything inside wanted to collapse. You survived someone who manipulated your kindness, twisted your truth, and made you question your own reality. That's not just surviving. That's rising. And no matter how many nights you cried, How many days felt impossible to face? Here you are, still here, still breathing, still building. He won't admit it, but he knows. He knows he lost something he'll never find again. Not because you were perfect, but because you were real. And real scares people like him. Real sees through the performance. Real exposes the cracks. Real demands accountability. And he was never ready for that. So don't wait for karma. Don't wait for justice. He'll keep running from himself long after you've found peace. And that's the real punishment. Living a life where every connection is a transaction, every love is a lie, and every mirror reflects a stranger. That's his future. Not yours. Yours is different now. Quieter, maybe. But peaceful. Honest. Safe. And the people who come into it from here on out, they'll feel that. They'll see the strength in your eyes, the calm in your presence, the boundaries in your energy. And they'll know. This is someone who's been through fire and didn't burn but forged. You'll stop needing to explain what happened. The ones who get it will just get it. And the ones who don't, they were never meant to walk this road with you. Because this path you're on now, it's not for everyone, it's for the healed, the honest, the ones who chose themselves after years of choosing wrong. There might still be echoes, triggers, dreams that shake you awake. That's okay. Healing isn't about erasing the past, and it's about integrating it, making peace with it, letting it shape you, but never define you. And you'll get there, not all at once, but day by day, choice by choice. The silence you used to fear becomes your sanctuary. The solitude that once felt like punishment becomes your protection. And suddenly the idea of going back, it doesn't tempt you anymore. It disgusts you. Because now, you see what you couldn't see before. You weren't hard to love. He just didn't know how to love without hurting. You were never asking for too much. You were asking the wrong person. And now, you've become the person you always needed. For yourself. That's the kind of transformation no apology could ever replace. That's the kind of healing no validation from him could ever match. Let the past rot behind you. Let him keep playing the same game with new players. You've left the arena. You've broken the pattern. And the freedom that comes with that, it's not loud. It's not flashy, it's quiet, but it's real, and it's yours now. No one can take that from you. Not him, not the memories, not the guilt. Because you've finally done what he never could, faced the truth, felt the pain, and walked through it anyway. That's not just survival. That's power. That's healing. That's rebirth.